1. Affliction due to ignorance, eliminating wrong views. One of the fundamental causes of affliction is ignorance. When we do not understand the nature of things, we easily fall into anxiety, confusion, anger, and attachment. It is like a person walking in darkness without knowing the way, easily stumbling or getting lost. The Buddha called this ignorance, avijja, meaning the lack of insight into reality and the true nature of life. Because of ignorance, people develop false perceptions about themselves and the world, leading to suffering. Manifestations of affliction due to ignorance. There are many types of affliction that arise from ignorance. Below are some typical examples. 1. Not understanding the nature of life, anxiety and fear. Many people constantly worry about the future, fearing the loss of what they have or the misfortunes that may come. They do not realize that everything in life is impermanent, meaning it is always changing and nothing lasts forever. When one understands the law of impermanence, they will no longer cling to or fear the changes in life. Example. A person fears aging, losing their beauty and health. But in reality, everyone will age, get sick and eventually die. This is the natural law. If we truly understand this, we will no longer be overly anxious about wrinkles or gray hair. 2. Not understanding the true self, clinging to ego. We often believe in a fixed self, thinking, I am this way, I must be that way. However, what we call self is just a temporary combination of body, thoughts, and emotions which are constantly changing. When we cling to the self, we easily develop ambition, anger, attachment, and suffering. Example. Have you ever felt hurt when someone criticized you? If you understand that other people's words do not define you, then their criticism will no longer affect you. 3. Not understanding karma, blaming fate. Many people, when facing misfortune, blame fate, thinking they are unlucky or cursed by destiny. But in reality, everything happens for a reason. If we experience hardship today, it may be due to past actions, even from previous lifetimes, creating negative karma. Example. A businessman fails in his venture. Instead of blaming others or fate, if he understands the law of karma, he will realize that perhaps he had previously conducted business dishonestly or lacked merit. If he changes his ways and does good deeds, his karma will gradually transform. B. How to eliminate affliction due to ignorance? To free ourselves from affliction caused by ignorance, we must cultivate wisdom. The Buddha taught 3 methods to develop wisdom. 1. Learning and listening, sutta. Wisdom from hearing and study. The first kind of wisdom comes from listening and learning correct teachings. We must read books, study the Dharma, and listen to wise teachers to expand our understanding. Learning is not just about gaining knowledge but also about changing our perspective on life. Example. If you read teachings on impermanence, you will gradually accept life's changes more calmly. 2. Reflecting and contemplating, sutta. Wisdom from thinking. Learning without reflection leads to superficial knowledge that is not truly helpful. We must deeply contemplate and analyze what we have learned. When facing a problem, instead of reacting impulsively, we should pause and think. Is this really true? Is this worth getting upset over? Example. When someone speaks harshly to you, instead of immediately getting angry, ask yourself, is their statement true? If it is, we should change. If it is false, why should I be upset over something untrue? 3. Practicing and experiencing, bhavana. Wisdom from meditation and practice. Knowledge only becomes true wisdom when we apply it in real life. We must practice living according to the right teachings to experience their benefits firsthand. The more we practice, the clearer our wisdom becomes, and the fewer afflictions we have. Example. If you understand that anger only harms yourself, try practicing patience when someone provokes you. You will see that by not reacting immediately, the anger fades away much faster. C. Conclusion. Affliction due to ignorance is dangerous because it distorts our view of life, leading to suffering. Fortunately, wisdom can be cultivated to eliminate ignorance. Pushpin in summary, to reduce affliction caused by ignorance, we should white heavy checkmark learn the right teachings. White heavy checkmark contemplate and apply them in real life. White heavy checkmark practice living with wisdom. When we understand the true nature of life, we will no longer be trapped in unnecessary worries, fear changes, or blame fate. This is the path to liberation from affliction. Lightbulb. 2. Afflictions due to lack of restraint, eliminating through guarding. In life, many afflictions arise because people do not know how to restrain their body, speech, and mind. We easily indulge ourselves, acting recklessly, speaking hurtful words, or letting our minds follow desires and anger. The Buddha called this lack of restraint asavara, meaning the failure to control oneself, the failure to guard what needs to be protected, allowing afflictions to grow. Manifestations of afflictions due to lack of restraint. 1. Lack of restraint in speech creates conflict and resentment. Uncontrolled speech can hurt others, damage relationships, and even create negative karma. Lies, harsh words, insults, or gossip that causes division all lead to bad consequences. When speech is unguarded, it often results in regrets later on. Examples: in a moment of anger, a person insults a friend. Even if they regret it later, the emotional wound has already been inflicted, and the friendship may never be the same. Someone tells a lie to cover up a mistake, but when the truth is revealed, their reputation is damaged and trust is lost. White heavy checkmark. How to guard speech. Before speaking, ask yourself, is this necessary? Will it harm anyone? Practice speaking truthfully, kindly, and in a way that encourages goodness. 2. Lack of restraint in actions leads to wrongdoings. When actions are uncontrolled, people easily commit wrongful deeds, creating negative karma. Acts of violence, theft, adultery, or any harm done to others all stem from indulgence. A person who lacks self-discipline is easily tempted and can fall into destructive behaviors. Examples: a person addicted to alcohol loses control, leading to fights, accidents, or even crimes. A gambler starts with small bets for fun but gradually loses control, bringing suffering to themselves and their family. White heavy checkmark. How to guard actions. Always be mindful of your behavior, avoiding temptations and reckless actions. Uphold moral discipline, live ethically, and stay away from harmful behaviors. 3. Lack of restraint in the mind leads to desires and anger. An unrestrained mind chases after greed, desire, anger, hatred, and ignorance, delusion, leading to suffering. Desire makes people greedy, selfish, and always wanting more. Anger creates restlessness, making people easily irritable and prone to conflicts. Delusion blinds people from seeing reality, making them easily deceived or led astray. Examples: a person sees others succeed but instead of feeling happy, they become envious and try to bring them down. Someone is insulted and instead of remaining calm, holds on to resentment and seeks revenge, causing more suffering for themselves. White heavy checkmark. How to guard the mind. Regularly observe and correct negative thoughts. Practice meditation to keep the mind calm and free from desires and hatred. Cultivate loving kindness, wishing well for others. B. How to guard and restrain properly. To eliminate afflictions caused by a lack of restraint, one must practice 3 types of guarding. 1. Guarding through moral discipline, sila savara, keeping precepts. Following moral precepts helps control oneself and prevents the body, speech, and mind from falling into mistakes. The 5 basic precepts in Buddhism. No killing, avoid harming life. No stealing, respect others' property. No sexual misconduct, maintain ethical relationships. No lying, be truthful, avoid deception. No intoxicants, keep the mind clear and mindful. White heavy checkmark. Benefits. Keeping precepts brings peace of mind, free from fear and regret. It lays the foundation for a harmonious life, avoiding troubles and suffering. 2. Guarding through mindfulness, sati savara, awareness in actions. Mindfulness helps us stay aware of our speech, actions, and thoughts. When we are mindful, we are less likely to be tempted or provoked by external influences. Before speaking, acting, or thinking, we can remind ourselves, is this the right thing to say? Will this action harm anyone? Will this thought cause me suffering? White heavy checkmark. Benefits. Mindfulness helps us control ourselves better, reducing mistakes and conflicts. Life becomes more peaceful without being disturbed by unnecessary worries. 3. Guarding through wisdom, panasavara, restraint with wisdom. Only with wisdom can we clearly see the consequences of wrongful actions and avoid them. Wisdom allows us to distinguish right from wrong and not be led astray. When we understand the true nature of greed, anger, and ignorance, we are no longer controlled by them. White heavy checkmark. Benefits. Wisdom helps us make the right decisions, avoiding mistakes that lead to suffering. With wisdom, we no longer hold on to anger, jealousy, or meaningless desires. C. Conclusion. Afflictions due to lack of restraint arise when people fail to control their body, speech, and mind. To eliminate these afflictions, one must practice moral discipline, mindfulness, and wisdom. Pushpin. In summary, to guard oneself properly. White heavy checkmark. Control speech. Avoid lies, insults, and hurtful words. White heavy checkmark. Guard actions. Stay away from temptations and wrongdoings. White heavy checkmark. Restrain the mind. Do not let greed, anger, or delusion take over. When we learn to guard ourselves properly, our minds become lighter, life becomes more peaceful, and afflictions no longer cling to us. This is the path to true peace and enlightenment. Lightbulb. 3. Afflictions arising from material deficiency, elimination through proper utilization. In our daily lives, we all require certain material necessities to live and grow. However, if we don't know how to manage our lack or our excessive desire for material things, we easily fall into affliction. Worries about food, clothing, shelter, or money can create insecurity, leading to greed, envy, or suffering. The Buddha described this type of affliction as one arising from a lack of proper utilization. That is, using material resources in a balanced, wise manner without clinging to them as the ultimate source of happiness. Manifestations of affliction from material deficiency. 1. Anxiety and fear due to poverty. When living in deprivation, people often feel anxious, depressed, and even inferior compared to others. The fear of not having enough to eat, wear, or a place to live can lead to sleeplessness and constant stress. Example. A person who loses their job and cannot pay rent may fall into depression, overwhelmed by anxiety. A poor person might always feel inferior, thinking they are less capable than others. White heavy checkmark. How to alleviate. Learn to accept your situation and seek solutions instead of wallowing in worry. Understand that material things are only a part of life, not the measure of your worth. 2. Greed and insatiability. Many people, even when they have enough, continue to desire more and are never satisfied. This greed leads to a relentless chase for money or power, resulting in conflicts and even harm to others. Example. A wealthy person who is never content may resort to dishonest means to accumulate more wealth. Someone who compares themselves constantly to others may always feel inadequate. White heavy checkmark. How to alleviate. Cultivate a sense of contentment, recognizing that true happiness is not measured by material possessions. Practice generosity by sharing with those in need, which helps diminish excessive desire. 3. Suffering from loss. Clinging too tightly to material things makes loss unbearable, breeding regret and resentment. The fear of losing what we have can lead to living in constant anxiety and insecurity. Example. A businessperson who is overly attached to their wealth might fall into despair if they experience a financial loss. Someone who loses an important possession may become overwhelmed by sorrow, unable to move on. White heavy checkmark. How to alleviate. Realize that nothing in the material world is permanent, all things come and go. Practice letting go of attachment and find stability in inner peace rather than external possessions. B. How to properly utilize material resources to eliminate affliction. To overcome afflictions from material deficiency, we must learn to properly utilize our resources, that is, to use them in a way that is balanced and supportive of our well-being, without becoming overly attached to them. 1. Managing material resources wisely. Avoid wasteful spending, but also do not be overly miserly with yourself and your family. Spend judiciously, save when needed, invest wisely, and set aside a portion for emergencies. White heavy checkmark. Buddha's advice. Divide your resources into 4 parts. 1 part for daily needs such as food and basic living expenses. 1 part for investment, for business, education, personal growth. 1 part for helping others, charity and compassion. 1 part for emergencies to cover unforeseen difficulties. 2. Using material things with gratitude. Recognize that what you have, be it food, clothing, or shelter, is the result of the effort and contributions of many. Instead of taking these things for granted or becoming overly attached, learn to appreciate them. Example. When you sit down for a meal, remember the hard work of farmers and workers who made it possible. When you wear your clothes, appreciate them rather than chasing after expensive, superficial fashions. White heavy checkmark. Benefits. This gratitude helps you feel more content and reduces the insatiable desire for more. It fosters a simple, balanced way of living that is less driven by material attachment. 3. Practicing generosity to let go of attachment. Being generous not only benefits others but also helps you release the grip of attachment on material things. By sharing what you have, you reduce your own fears of scarcity and create positive karma. Examples. Donating money or resources to those in need. Offering your time, knowledge, or support to help others overcome their difficulties. White heavy checkmark. Benefits. Generosity brings joy and fulfillment from giving, rather than from hoarding. It creates a cycle of positivity, reducing afflictions and bringing more peace and happiness to your life. See, in summary, afflictions from material deficiency do not arise simply because of poverty itself, but from how we view and use material things. When we learn to properly utilize our resources, managing them wisely, using them with gratitude and practicing generosity, we reduce our anxieties, curb our greed, and lessen the suffering that comes from loss and attachment. Pushpin. To sum up, in order to overcome afflictions from material deficiency, we should white heavy checkmark manage our resources wisely without waste or miserliness. White heavy checkmark appreciate and be grateful for what we have, recognizing its impermanent nature. White heavy checkmark practice generosity and share with others, which diminishes our own attachment. By changing our attitude towards material things, we can reduce our suffering and live a more peaceful, happy life. This is the true path toward liberation and enlightenment.